Do you just want this red bone on top of my head? Then take it. But before you take my life, could you let me go back one last time? Let me see my wife again. The wife I sealed inside that tree hollow with my own beak. Then you can come back and take my life. I am not afraid to die, but I am afraid that my wife, who lost her ability to fly for our children, will starve to death inside that tree hollow because I never came back. I am the Helmeted Hornbill, but humans prefer to call me by another name, a name soaked in blood. He Ding Hong, the legendary red crown, poison from ancient China. You think He Ding Hong is some legendary deadly poison? Wrong. It is not poison at all. It is the living skull of a helmeted hornbill. If I had not seen it with my own eyes, I would never have believed it. A skull that once belonged to a living creature is carved with images of merciful Buddhas. It is placed inside a delicate brocade box, and then it is marked with a price so high that ordinary people could not earn it in several lifetimes. The cold steel wire cuts deep into my neck. Every second I struggle comes with a pain so sharp it feels like my soul is being torn apart. The poacher's leather boot crushes my wing without mercy. Those eyes, filled with desire, stare straight at the red cask on my forehead. It is as red as frozen blood. In their eyes, this is not an organ that a living creature depends on to survive. It is a key to a life of luxury. In this world twisted by vanity, absurd things happen every single day. A skull carving no bigger than a thumb once sold at auction for $650,000. But no one knows that behind every so-called heirloom held in human hands, there is a tragedy where an entire family died. Humans have given this piece of bone far too much imaginary value. They marvel at how warm and jade-like it looks, but they never think about this. This bright, oily red is not some rare stone. It is the living crystal that we helmeted hornbills developed for reproduction and survival. What humans understand even less is our almost obsessive loyalty. The love of the helmeted hornbill is a life and death gamble written into our genes. We do not have those human tests where everything is weighed by profit and loss. We choose only one mate in our entire lives. This is not a romantic promise. It is an instinct to give your life away once you have chosen. When we dance together in the treetops, when I carefully place the first berry into her beak, my life no longer belongs only to me. This love does not need eternal vows. It can only be proven by every beat of my wings for the rest of my life. The richest season of the year arrives. When the wind of breeding season blows through the treetops, it carries moisture and sweetness. And it also brings the most solemn and cruel moment of our lives. To welcome new life, we choose an old hollow tree as our wedding chamber. Once the tree is chosen, a decisive ritual begins. The female bird climbs deep into the dark tree hollow. She uses mud, moss, and her own saliva to seal the entrance little by little. She leaves only a narrow slit, just wide enough for a sharp beak to fit through. Then she endures the terrible pain and pulls out all the feathers on her body, completely cutting off any chance of flying. Those feathers are connected to flesh and blood. They are pulled out one by force. To create a clean and safe space for the chicks, she gives up her wings without hesitation. She cuts off her own escape route. She imprisons herself inside this dark cage, and she places all hope of survival onto my wings. The long days that follow become the greatest test. For the next 150 days, she will stay in darkness without seeing the sun. She will use her own body heat to hatch the chicks, and I become the only connection between her, our children, and the outside world. This means that from that day on, I must wake up early and fly into the cold, wet winds of Borneo. I must fly dozens of kilometers through danger to search for the plumpest berries and the fattest insects. In the rainforest morning, giant eagles and venomous snakes are hiding everywhere. I drag my heavy body through the trees because I know that far away, inside that old tree, my wife and child, whom I love with my whole life, are waiting for me to come back. Every time I return, my crop is stretched, almost transparent. The weight presses down on my neck until it hurts. But I do not complain, even if strong winds tear through the branches. Even if heavy rain soaks my wings, I cannot stop, I cannot get sick, and I absolutely cannot fall. Every evening when I see the crack in that tree trunk, all my exhaustion disappears. Every time I pass warm food through the slit and hear that soft, relieved call from the darkness, I know that what I have flown across was never just mountains and forests. It was the boundary between life and death. That moment when we feel each other's heartbeat through a wall of mud is the cruelest beauty the Creator has given us. Because from the second the mud dries, our two lives are tied tightly together. What passes through that slit is not just food, it is complete trust. If I die, my whole family dies with me. This heavy curse becomes the only faith that keeps my wings beating without rest. And yet, we can survive the storms of nature, but we cannot survive the bottomless greed of humans. Human footsteps shattered the peace of the rainforest. The poachers came. They brought nooses and traps into this land. They ignored the cries of living creatures. To obtain a complete red skull, they used ropes to strangle us alive. They let the blood slowly seep into the cask, making the color redder and more valuable. The rough rope locks tightly around my windpipe. Because of extreme suffocation and pain, the blood rushes backward and violently surges toward my head. It stains that bone with a tragic blood-red color. In the middle of that terrible pain, the only thing in my mind is my wife. She is still waiting happily for me to come home. If I do not return, how frightened will she be? While I am still alive, they cut off my head. My body is thrown away casually. Only my head is sent to the carving table. My body rots in the heat, but my skull begins an absurd journey. My soul cries out in a pool of blood, but what truly makes me unable to rest is the home I can never return to. My wife is still waiting inside the tree hollow 10 kilometers away, but she will never receive food again, and she cannot open the sealed entrance. By the third day, hunger has swallowed her sanity. The cries of the chick cut into her heart. By the seventh day, when the chick's body has gone completely cold, she can only use her weak, useless claws to scratch desperately at the mud wall, hard as stone. She scratches until her claws break, until blood runs down. She can only sit in endless darkness, listening to her own heartbeat slowly stop. How ironic. This tree hollow, which once witnessed so much love, finally becomes the coffin that holds my entire family. A family built for love walks silently toward destruction. What is even sadder is the way humans treat this bloodshed. Humans carve words of compassion onto my skull. They think they have bought eternal dignity, but they will never understand. They have covered the dirtiest desire with the cleanest words. Those powerful people, sitting high in grand halls, hold Heiding Hong in their hands, carved with Buddhas, and pray for blessings. But they turn a blind eye to the tragedy of an entire family being wiped out. Every line carved by the knife is soaked with the cries of the chick and the despair of the mother bird. So stop saying Heiding Hong is the most poisonous thing in the world. The true poison was never the red bone on its head. The true poison is human greed that can never be filled. It is complete hypocrisy dressed in the clothing of good fortune. When vanity rises above life, so-called civilization becomes more bloodthirsty and savage than the jungle itself. When the buying stops, the killing stops. Such a simple truth. And yet countless living creatures have had to prove it with their blood. When you see someone wearing Heiding Hong, please tell them. That is not a symbol of status. That is a blood-colored medal bought with the lives of an entire bird family. May every wind that blows through the rainforest remember our cries. And may that vanity covered in blood finally turn to ashes before conscience.